product of one of our meetings, the forum had placed a courtesy call on the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission in order to open areas of collaboration in reducing vulnerabilities in the mobile space and securing their participation at the forum. A fruit of that meeting was the constitution of an interagency committee, which arrived at conclusions that will define the implementation of a guiding framework for the prevention of SIM swap fraud that have become prevalent, especially with the use of USSD for financial transactions. I am happy to announce that as a product of that interagency committee, we have, for the first time in our midst as participants, mobile network operators, that is MTN, Airtel, Globalcom, and 9Mobile as members of the forum. I think we should appreciate that. We warmly welcome them to our fold, and we sincerely believe that their onboarding will be the game changer in our fight against electronic fraud in Nigeria. Prior to this time, we have always related with the telcos through the telecommunication regulator, which is the NCC, an organization that has assisted us greatly and have collaborated with us in our fight against electronic fraud. But as we used to say in those days when we were young, I'm sure you will all remember, we used to write, face-to-face is better than 1,000 letters. Can you still remember? Yes. Physical interaction by parties could be more effective than going through an intermediary. And that is why we are happy that the MNOs are here with us and the regulator is still with us, so that all of us can work together to combat the menace of electronic fraud. Following these serial interactions with the telecom industry, it might not surprise you to see a telecommunication company as speakers today, which shows the intensity of our discussions in the last 1 year. That smishing, SIM swaps, and recycled SIMs have posed a new challenge in our space, without saying, with subscribers constantly being inundated with messages and calls aimed at phishing personal banking information from the unwary. It has become important to partner with the telcos who can assist us in probably ending this dimension of fraud. And to show the seriousness attached to this war, I'm sure many of you who have read the papers today will have noticed that the Executive Vice Chairman of NCC at a forum in Minna yesterday also attested to the fact that the NCC is working with the central bank and the telcos to fight electronic fraud. You can see that our fight is actually succeeding because all the various stakeholders that are required in the fight are already collaborating with us. Of particular interest to us is also the need for a holistic sensitization and awareness campaign for financial industry participants. This has become all too important as users of financial products need to keep payment safety buttons on top of their mind at all times. We hope that our members will show the much-needed cooperation when the time comes for us to jointly engage the public and push our message to the forefront of payment conversations alongside convenience and speed.
Okay, so what happens to 139 million mobile phone users in Nigeria who risk malicious applications on their devices, posing risks to the rise of the US dollar as a means of electronic payment for transactions? The executive director in charge of operations and technology at Skybank, Innocent Ike, wants the Nigeria Electronic Fraud Forum to kick off an awareness campaign on this risk to consumers. Take a listen.
There are about 139 million active mobile users according to NCC, and this no doubt provides a fertile ground for malicious apps. The ease with which apps can be developed and published on apps market is one of the developments which have encouraged the spread of malicious apps. There are a number of other reasons, which some of them we know. Some manufacturers of portable computing devices do not have a rigorous app, signing and approval process, and this facilitates the development and distribution of malicious apps. And of course, to an innocent user, he goes to the store, sees an app, believes it is genuine. What does he do? Downloads. And what has he done? He has imported, big problems for himself. Most app stores do not have inbuilt methods to detect if applications contain malicious codes. Some apps also include third-party codes for their functionalities. The source of these codes can sometimes introduce vulnerabilities of malware into the apps. Majority of IT administrators do not pay sufficient attention to monitoring of smartphones connected to their network. The general thinking is that the security of smartphone is primarily the concern of the owner. IT administrators invest less in protecting mobile devices as compared to the investments made on PCs, network devices, and corporate servers. IT administrators and system security personnel have not come to the full realization that smartphones connected to the corporate networks have extended such networks to homes and other places. To deal with these challenges, industry stakeholders, indeed key industry stakeholders such as are gathered here today, must therefore work together and come up with practical strategies to prevent proliferation of clone apps. One of the strategies to deal with this menace was the enactment of Cybercrime Prohibition and Prevention and Other Matters Act of 2015, which is meant to regulate the cybersecurity space in the country and provide for application of civil penalties for internet infractions. But more still needs to be done. Now the question really is, this act has been 2 years since it was enacted into law. If we ask ourselves the question, and for those of us who have taken time to look at it, even for basic appreciation, we ask ourselves the question, is that law being implemented today? Not talk about being implemented to the letter. I'm not sure of how many industry stakeholders that are aware of that law. How many people have gone really through it to understand it? The key issues are, one, do we have the necessary mechanisms and machineries to prosecute offenders today? Most of us here are banks, and we witness the challenges of electronic fraud almost on a daily basis. And we know the kind of encounters we have with law enforcement agencies. The judiciary and other stakeholders, have we sufficiently engaged them? I'm happy with the statement made by the chairman when he said, when he enumerated some of the initiatives, engagements, particularly with various government agencies, NCC, and other government agencies. It's key for us as industry stakeholders that we must engage the judiciary arm of government effectively if we are going to implement this law. The issue of public awareness and bringing this law, the intent, and including the sanctions there, the punishments, going through it, you see it's a very, very robust enactment if you look at it. It covers almost every aspect of cybercrime you can ever imagine. But then, why are we not implementing it? Are people aware? So one of the key things that we must live here determined to do is, how do we ensure that the general public, the individuals, our customers, the ordinary man on the street, the media in particular, are aware of this law and that we give it the desired projection? I'm sorry, those are my comments anyway. Those are not part of the MD's. But as an industry stakeholder, I think I'm permitted to also make some comments. Thank you. Now, other strategies could involve taking steps to ensure that innocent app users never download apps from untrusted third parties. The users should always download apps from official app marketplaces like App Store for Apple phones, Google Play for Android phones, and Windows phones for Store for Windows phones. Now, an innocent user simply downloads. If you do, is oblivious of the danger posed. So when we talk about public awareness, I acknowledge that yes, some of us are already doing it, but we need to elevate that public awareness of customers. Even within the banks, you have to even caution some of our colleagues not to download or read mails that appear to have come from unknown or suspicious sources. Now, if we have those challenges internally, it means that out there, we have a whole lot of work to do to get people to understand that most of these, some of these apps that they see or that get, sometimes they are pushed to them that they don't need to download them, because if they do so, it means that they've made themselves vulnerable where they should ordinarily not have done so. Installing anti-malware tools to detect malicious apps. This is another major initiative that we need to also put in place. Carrying out awareness campaigns. Like we said, this is very key. Mobile phone users should be continuously sensitized on the menace of malicious apps and what they can do to avoid being victims. App developers building the apps in such a way that maintains the confidentiality of application, so code and hardening mobile applications that process sensitive information at the binary level to prevent reverse engineering.